Hello, welcome to the Hard Folk Podcast. My name is Matt Gower. I wasn't planning on doing an episode this week, but something happened over the weekend that basically maybe changed my mind. I was in contact with John Allaire because I'll be playing the Allaire Show at Quinn's later this month, and we were supposed to be doing a show together at Blues and Brews on the Thursday night, but that run of shows has actually been canceled, the Thursday shows at Blues and Brews. So I thought it would be a good opportunity for us to get together and just expand on some of the reasons why shows get canceled and how what I'm calling the love triangle of artists, venues, and audiences can work together to make these shows more successful. We said it in the podcast. Instead of placing blame and pointing fingers, we've got to hold hands, work together, high five each other, support each other in order to make that love triangle, the relationship in that love triangle, a success. And really quick, just an update. Last episode, I had Colin Prentice on the show, and we talked about the music industry arts program at Algonquin. And I guess there has been a postponement in canceling some of those programs, including the music industry arts program at Algonquin. So nothing has been decided yet, but I guess it's sort of a positive because it means that there's more time to kind of rally for that program and for arts programs in general. And that has to do also with this conversation because arts are important and, we need to continue to support the arts. So anyways, here's my talk with John, and I'll be back next week or two. I'm not sure exactly what the time is going to be, but I'll have Jack Pine on the show. I will also have Lefty McRighty on the show. Maybe not in that particular order, but we've got Friday Night Folk coming up pretty soon on March the 6th. So make sure to come out and support that show and support John Allaire's shows in the future as well. So anyways, here's my talk with John. Enjoy. Okay, so I am here with John Allaire. Welcome to the Hard Folk Podcast, John.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and this is kind of a hastily put together episode just because we had some news come about over the weekend that there are some show cancellations. So why don't we just off the bat start with why we're both here to talk?
Sure. Well, a lot of people know about the Allaire Show. It's been going on for 16 years at Quinn's down on Bank Street near the canal. And we've had just a little bit of background on that. We've had over 400 guests, over almost 700 shows now in 16 years. And it's really quite successful in that area of town and with the guests that we've had on. And so we decided at the beginning of this season that we had a really good show out in Stittsville at a place called Brews Blues. It used to be Kathleen Edwards' place called Quitters. And
That's right.
It's Brews Blues now. And I had a show in the summer, and there was like 120 people out in the back. It was an outdoor show at this bar, and there was 120 people. I said, "Well, this might be a cool scene here. Might be a good place for to expand the show." And so we did. We brought it. We called it the Allaire Show West, and I booked a lot of the same artists for both the Thursday and the Saturday, feeling that the Stittsville crowd probably doesn't go downtown much and vice versa.
Yep.
And it was very successful for the first. We might have top loaded the show a little bit. I had kicked it off with Tony D, who's won two Junos, and things like that. But it was very successful for the first 5 or 6 shows. Sold out pretty much every one. It was a Thursday night, and then things just started tapering off. People stopped showing up, and weather got cold, and here we are. We had to cancel the rest of the season. It was a mutual decision, but we had to cancel the rest of the season at that location. Certainly not at the Quinn's location. So if you're coming to Quinn's, keep coming.
Yes, for sure.
So that's sort of the background of what happened there. Yeah.
Okay, so um, now to go back to Quinn's, what has made over the 16 years and almost over 700 shows, what has made the John Allaire Show at Quinn's a success on the flip side?
It's a good question. I think consistency is one of them. People know that it's there. They know that unlike like a Lucky Ron show, and I love Lucky Ron. I'm not disparaging him in by any uh, shape or the imagination. Um, it's different every week because we have a different guest, and it's got a level of predictability and unpredictability to it. So
Mhm.
it's like an evening talk show. You know that Letterman's going to make a certain amount of jokes, but and you've got a predictability of that, but you also at the same time have different guests and different things happening, and that makes it unpredictable. Which I think is the success ratio of that show is the predictability versus unpredictability. People keep coming back. We've got a slew of regulars, and the guests bring in their fans on a pretty regular basis, and so that makes a win-win for everybody.
Hmm. Now I should know this because I'm playing the Allaire Show at Quinn's at the end of March. But are these ticketed events or are they just kind of a general admission kind of thing?
No, it's a pay what you can, and I think it's funny because at the beginning, 16 years ago, if I can remember this far back, but 16 years ago, it was a bit of a struggle to get people to drop money into the bucket as it was going around. But we've sort of figured that out, and we've got people trained to do it. And I think after COVID, I found people were a little more willing to support artists in their domain, kind of thing. They realized over that period that, geez, I miss this stuff. And I mean, that's tapered off maybe a little bit, but people got to realize, I think, the value of the live musicians and the art that they were going to see, and so after COVID, I think actually the people got a little more generous for at least a little bit of amount of time. But the model is um, the bar pays me, Quinn's pays me to curate a show for them
Hmm.
on Saturday afternoons. I mean, I'm not going to retire on the money that they pay me to curate the show, but the show definitely depends on the pay what you can tips, and we call them tips, but it's an admission
Yep.
price that from the audience, and they're really good they tend to be really generous at that location, and they um, tend to buy the merch from the people, and it's a culture that has been developed over time. It didn't just
Hmm.
happen like that. We've had to develop it, and so um, I can pretty much guarantee my artists, a certain amount of money for their set, and a good listening audience there. This wasn't happening in Stittsville. I mean, it was okay the first few shows because we were explaining it how it worked. But then as the audience has tapered off, so did the money, obviously, just on a volume basis, but also the willingness to, the culture hadn't hit there, and it hadn't been given time to develop, I don't think. So,
Hmm. Well, and I made a little post about this, kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing on Valentine's Day. I called it sort of a love triangle, I guess you could say, where between the artists, the venue, and the audience, and we're all interconnected because you can't take one away to have a like for a show to be a success. If you take one away, it's not going to happen. And it really sounds like you've nurtured that culture and that success in Quinn's. How can venues and artists and audiences work together to nurture that culture in relatively new and growing scenes like Stittsville?
yeah, it's it's such an interesting and difficult question to answer because the answer is there's not a one size fits all. There's so many factors. It's the type of show. Is it covers? Is it are you wallpaper in a restaurant where they just expect you to be background music, or is the show
Hmm.
appointed show for original music, or is it a cover bar. So there, and all of those elements have their own. I consider it to be like a balancing act between the three.
Hmm.
Whereas a sliding scale almost. Whereas, well, we'll leave the audience out of it just for a moment.
Okay.
And between the bar and the artists, like if you're wallpaper and if they hire you to be background, uh, then the onus is on them to get people in there. They
Sure.
like because if they're not hiring you to do a specific show and put yourself out there, then the onus is on them. So
Sure.
that that would go way up on the bar side for if you are at a place like Irene's, which has its own scene, so it might not be the best example. But if you are doing your own original music at a bar like Irene's that nurtures that kind of thing, uh, then the responsibility, I think, to get more people into seats lies on the artist because they're basically selling their own goods out there. Um, but the onus to promote, I think, is on both sides
Hmm.
in any of these situations. So I mean, it's not a one size fits all answer to this.
So it's not an equilateral triangle. The sides kind of shift.
They certainly do, and there's so many factors.
Hmm. And I was having this conversation with Graven on an earlier podcast, and it's just something that is such a big mystery. Ottawa is a big, and I mean like even geographically, a big mystery as far as getting people to pre purchase tickets and things like that. And just on the audience end, like as an artist, I think pre-purchase is a huge amount of just data and information for us to be able to know how many people are going to come because some venues they'll even cancel if they haven't had enough pre-sales. And on the audience side as well, like they've got to be able to come in and support that venue in like buying food and buying drinks and things like that. And one thing that we've seen since the pandemic, maybe it's just like a Gen Y, Gen X thing, is people are just drinking less alcohol in general, and that's been a huge hit on bars as well, you know?
Yeah. Uh, Not to brag, but I have a big drinking crowd. So I think it is a generational thing, though. You're right. I mean, I'm 60 years old. I'm sort of the grandfather of the Gen Xers, and um, we my generation and into the Boomers, I think, um, do support sort of going out, having drinks, grabbing an Uber home, whatever it is that
Hmm.
however they get travel around. I am finding I have 30 something children. I don't have 30 children. I mean, I have two children who are 30 something. I don't think I have 30 children. Um,
That you know of.
it's a musician's lifestyle. What can I tell you? No, and they definitely um, don't and they've grown up in a household where dad was a professional musician, but they don't go out to as many clubs as we certainly did. So I think there is a shift in I mean, they go out to concerts when they're bigger. They probably go out to more bigger concerts than I do or did, and they go to we went to the bars, whereas they have shifted on that, more festival centric. But there's definitely uh, a difficulty in getting the next generation of music lovers to come out on a consistent basis. I think, that's just
Hmm.
anecdotal, but I mean, if I've talked to the bars that I play, they definitely say, yeah, we like having you in, John, because you bring in those, uh, you know, 55 to 65-year olds or 50 to 70, maybe, I don't know, that are they're drinkers, they're social, that's their time out, and then uh, whereas the younger generation doesn't seem to be doing that as much.
Yeah, it's a tough nut to crack sometimes. Like for me, I run the Friday night folk show every couple months at Art House, and I found that one of the really valuable uh partnerships I've had is with CKCU for sure.
Yeah.
And I think the benefit that I didn't really kind of think of myself, I was just thinking of like community radio, but I think also CKCU involves um younger like students, literally Carleton students in the day-to-day, volunteering and being radio hosts, and it's just kind of like a microcosm of the entire music community. So I think that has tied in well. But
Right.
it's just, you can't get a partner for every single show that you do. So
Yeah.
that's the tricky thing. It's just a really tricky, mysterious thing
Yeah.
for an artist, and it makes like especially these days. Like I took I would say from about 2016 or so until 2025 away from music, and it has changed so much since I've been
Absolutely.
gone.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's just learning how to navigate those waters. Like it used to be about putting physical posters up on lampposts, but now it's more than that. It's about social media. It's
Yeah.
about figuring out how to game the algorithms.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of just stuff that we don't know. In a certain sense, there's almost like a certain amount of gatekeeping amongst the successful people who are doing it. Because like, how do you do it? How do we do it?
Yeah, and you know what happens, and I'm finding this a lot with the shows that don't work out, and the ones that do, and there's a lot of finger pointing, and the musicians want to blame. I'm not taking any side here. I'm just saying the musicians want to blame the venues, and the venues want to blame the musicians, and the crowds want to blame the hours that the shows are at, and
hmm
there's everybody's pointing fingers at each other, and you know somewhere like most things in life, somewhere in the middle is the answer, and the uh, the thing about I get frustrated about is the musicians that I know, a lot of musicians that I know of my generation want to go, well, it used to be like this, but it's not anymore. And so many of them are expecting there to be a certain similarity to what they were used to because it's always been that way. And it just, you have to adapt. You have to, I mean, I used to be the one who'd go out in -20 weather and put posters up on posts for years. I've been in the business for 40 years. I started in 1984. My first professional show, or so whatever. I'm not good at math. 42 years, whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I've seen everything from soup to nuts to everything. When we started out, we used to play live shows to sell our records. Now you put out records basically at a often at a loss to promote your live shows or just to have something out there for people to physically hang on to when they leave. Um, and of course that's changed too with downloading, and that's a whole different podcast. But um, it's gone. I mean, I when I was in the Town Criers, that was my sort of seminal band back in the old days. We'd play 80 shows a year across Canada and sell a lot of records, and then we were get on Much Music and sell more records that way, and we were making our income less from shows and more from sales,
Hmm.
whereas that's just not a thing anymore. I play on average about 150 shows a year, and my sales from I mean they're decent for what they are, but I would say it's 5% of my musical income is on actual product sale and merch sales, and that, and the 95 is live shows. So that's completely changed.
Is that sort of on how the music industry in general is sort of selling music now? They're not really they're literally not selling music. They're streaming it, and and they're they're promoting the huge artists, I would say. Like
Yeah.
and that is where the artists make their money for sure. So has that been a shift that you've noticed?
Oh yeah, it's right up to the top. I mean, the artists like Springsteen and McCartney, and they're still touring, probably because they like it. But uh, they that's their revenue generation. The average music fan. I mean, vinyl's made a comeback, sure,
Hmm. Hmm.
but the average music fan streams their music. So uh, you're just, I mean, big stars, sure, they're going to make more streaming music than I am. One would hope, but they're still making their money from getting paid $80,000 a show or what.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's where they're making their money. So it's been a shift, not just from the club bands, but the big bands too. Yeah, it's just the reality of movies are the same. They're not making as much money uh, in box offices and theaters as they are syndicating their movies or selling them to streaming services. So or the streaming services um, coming up with their own content themselves. So everything in the entertainment industry has shifted, and it's the ones who can adapt and the ones who can, sort of um, build that into their business structure that will succeed.
for sure. And I think I'll leave it at that because I feel like if we keep going any further, we're gonna get a little unfocused as far as the answer. Because I think the bottom line is that you mentioned it. People need, like, in that triangle. First of all, it needs to be kind of equal in order to make it like a perfect world. And we need to stop pointing fingers. We need to start kind of like high-fiving and holding hands and shaking hands and coming together instead of blaming one side or the other. It does really need to be a love triangle.
It's true, and I know I might sound like I'm blaming other artists a lot more than I think I'm not. And I do have I have had great relationships with venues. I've had terrible relationships with venues. They're it's all over the map. Um, if you blame the public for not coming out, then there's a reason that the public didn't come out. And it could be, just the night of the week. Like Thursday, we found out wasn't the best night in Stittsville because, 2 days later, somebody played on Saturday and made a ton of money in tips. And, so it was just Thursday in the winters in Stittsville, we found out not the best, not the best time. Um, so these things all have to, come with experience. You have to figure things out with venues and there's I have artists who play my shows uh, that bring absolutely nobody to the show, and um, I know that the show itself has a reputation of having its own crowd. But for me to enjoy the show, I want to play to different people too.
Sure.
So the I kind of depend on the artist who I invite on, and I curate my shows pretty well. That they do, they have followings and stuff. I try my best anyway, but followings are unpredictable, as is mine. Uh, um, but I mean, there's an element of uh, the Allaire Show isn't just benevolence. Me showing up and bringing somebody on so that they're exposed to my crowd. I like to be exposed to their crowd too.
Sure.
So in that way, I'm all often surprised at how some of the guests bring absolutely nobody. Now, I also bring people from out of town. That's a probably a different discussion altogether because I can talk for hours about touring
Yeah.
and how you have to um, find places like Quinn's and other cities where other artists will sort of bring you in and help you fill a room in a city that you're not from.
Hmm.
But I guess what I'm saying is artists can't get off scot free saying that, oh, it's the venue's fault because they didn't promote it, or it's the audience's fault because they won't come out. We're talking about that triangle again, and it changes. The sides change.
Yeah, and I really appreciate like it's kind of it's bad timing. Like it's not great that you had to cancel the show, but at the same time, you're a veteran of the Ottawa music scene, and your perspective, I think, is a really important one and a valuable one for people to be able to hear kind of what you've seen over the years and like I said we've got if we knew the answer to how to get people to come out to the show and how to get that artists to work with people and get that triangle to be equilateral. If we had
Yep.
the answer to that, then we wouldn't be having this episode of the
Well,
podcast right
exactly.
now.
Exactly. We'd all be rich if we knew how to control the public. I mean, there's so many factors out there. I we found out that on nights that the Sens played, when they played just down the street from Stittsville, we
Mhm.
found out the night that there was an Ottawa Senators game, people just didn't come out. They were either at the game or they didn't want to venture out into the traffic.
Sure.
It, just there's so many factors, and when you're putting together a schedule, you can't factor in everything. I get emails the morning of or the night before my Saturday shows from people saying, I probably won't be going to your show this week, John. There's a 67s game, or the something's happening on the canal, and there'll be no parking. Well, okay, I'm going to show up anyway, so you show up or you don't. You know, and you just can't factor in all these things. You just have to sometimes go on a wing and a prayer and say that the true fans will show up and or the ones that want to. It's just what I'm saying is there's just too many things that affect that triangle, and a lot of it is just hoping for the best, doing your due diligence in promotion, and hoping that the venue does the same, working together, and hoping that the crowd shows up.
Yep, we got to keep that love triangle going.
Yep, exactly.
All right, John, thank you so much for joining me. I guess your next show at Quinn's is this Saturday. Who's going to be your guest this week?
I have the incredible Ken Workman on my show. I
Oh,
don't know
Ken
if you know.
Workman.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
used to play bass for me.
yeah, he's great. We went to high school together.
Oh
Although
wow.
I was a couple of years. I'm not going to try to date him, but I was a few years ahead of him. So we didn't hang out in high school. You don't hang around with the
Yeah, yeah,
minor
yeah.
niners when you're up there. But we've connected a number of times since. We're also in this little band that we do benefits and cover shows called the Nation River Rebels, and we have a show on Saturday night out in the Iroquois area for it's a benefit for. So we're going to go from the Quinn show out to get in his truck and go out to Iroquois and play a band show that night. But Ken if you don't know Ken, you should come out to this show. If you haven't seen him play his own stuff and seen him live, um, he's been produced by some Nashville producers, and he probably hate me saying this, but he's got to me that kind of Steve Earle vibe. He's
Cool.
got that sort of Americana, great heartfelt lyrics, and I just uh, so it's 3 o'clock at Quinn's, which is 1070 Bank Street, attached to the Mayfair Theater, and the doors open at 2. It's a good idea to get there somewhere
It's a
around
pretty
2.
tight space
It's
too, eh?
We jam about 40 to 50 people in there a week, and there's lots of standing because there's about 30 some odd seats. So it's a tight space. That's what makes the show, in my opinion. It's people are right in there with the artist, and the showtime is 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and it's pretty regimented. So if you're late, you're probably going to be standing.
Well, that's good for the artist to have standing room only.
Exactly. That's kind of the idea. I mean, it's good for the artist to play to a full house, even though the house is small. It's full and enthusiastic, and that's the fun thing about it.
Cool. Well, I'll be playing at the end of March, I believe. So I'm looking forward to joining you for that. And John, thanks again for joining me. I hope you have a standing room only show on Saturday with Ken.
I hope so too, and thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks so much to John Allaire for joining me on relatively short notice. Like I said, go check out the John Allaire Show this Saturday at Quinn's, 3 to 5 p.m. Doors open at 2. It'll be Ken Workman. Fun fact, Ken Workman briefly was a bass player in my band, Capital Aggress and the No Men. So there's the connection between the three of us. So go check that out. And support local music, support the arts.